When I refused to hand over my savings to fund their business, they called a lawyer and declared, "We're suing you for being selfish." I laughed until the court papers arrived. But the day of the trial, I walked in with a surprise witness that made the judge gasp and left them screaming in defeat. I, 37 male, have always been smart with my money. Growing up in New York City, I saw what financial struggle could do to people. My parents weren't rich, and I learned early that the only way to avoid the stress of living paycheck to paycheck was to be careful. So, I worked hard, saved aggressively, and made sure I always had an emergency fund. I wasn't living like a king, but I was comfortable. My cousin, Daniel, 42 male, and his wife, Sophia, 40 female, were the exact opposite. They lived big, leased luxury cars, designer clothes, expensive vacations, all on credit. They had a history of jumping from one business venture to another, each time convinced they had found a gold mine that would finally make them rich. And each time, it failed. So when Daniel called and said he and Sophia wanted to take me out to dinner, I already had a feeling something was up. We met at an upscale restaurant in Manhattan. They were dressed like they were about to walk a red carpet, while I was in my usual jeans and a button-down. Right away, I knew this wasn't just a friendly get-together. Daniel leaned in, grinning like he was about to share a secret that would change my life. "We have a business opportunity for you." I put my fork down. "Here we go." Sophia nodded eagerly. "We're opening a luxury pet spa. In Manhattan. This is going to be huge." I waited. "We just need a little bit of financial support," Daniel continued, his voice casual. "Nothing crazy. Just around $150,000. I nearly choked on my drink. $150,000? I repeated, thinking maybe I misheard. Sophia placed a hand on mine like she was comforting me. "We know it's a lot, but think of it as an investment. You'll get your money back in no time." "And you're both putting in how much?" I asked. Silence. Then Daniel shrugged. "Well, we're already investing our time. And we're putting in some money." I sat back. "So you want me to front the majority of the money, while you two contribute time?" Sophia's smile faltered. "Well, yeah, but..." "No," I said, just like that. Their smiles disappeared. "What do you mean, no?" Daniel asked, his voice getting sharper. "I mean no. I'm not handing over my savings to fund a business that doesn't even have a proper plan." Sophia scoffed. "Oh, come on, you can afford it. You own your apartment. You have no kids, no debt. What are you even saving for?" "Life," I said. "Emergencies. Retirement. Things that actually matter." Daniel leaned forward, suddenly aggressive. "You're being selfish. Family is supposed to help each other." "Help, yes," I said. "Not fund reckless spending." And that was it. They got up, muttering about how I clearly didn't care about family. As they stormed out, Sophia threw over her shoulder, "You're going to regret this." I laughed. I didn't think about it again, until a month later. I came home one evening to find an envelope taped to my door, official looking, thick. I opened it, skimmed the first few lines, and actually burst out laughing. They were suing me for selfish financial misconduct resulting in undue hardship on family. I had to read it twice just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. They claimed that since I was financially stable and they were struggling, I had a moral and implied financial obligation to support them. They even alleged that I had verbally agreed to fund their business and then reneged on the promise, causing them emotional and financial distress. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. I called a lawyer. My lawyer, Michelle, was ruthless. The moment she saw the lawsuit, she actually grinned. "This is a joke," she said. "They have no case. But if they want to play dirty, we'll make sure they regret it." The first thing she did? Request their financial records. If they were claiming hardship, we needed to prove how they had been handling their money. What we found was unbelievable. $12,000 spent on a spiritual retreat in Bali, a luxury wellness scam, $8,000 on designer handbags, a $35,000 down payment on a Tesla that they weren't even making payments on. Half of their business loan blown on a trip to the Maldives. They weren't struggling. They were reckless. Michelle was practically vibrating with excitement. "We're going to destroy them in court." Then I found something that took this case from ridiculous to next-level insane. A surprise witness. The day of the trial, Daniel and Sophia walked in looking smug. They sat down like they had already won. Their lawyer gave a dramatic opening statement about family obligations and how I had hoarded wealth while my struggling relatives suffered. They put on a full sob story about how they were on the verge of financial ruin and how my refusal to help had ruined their dreams. When it was our turn, Michelle didn't hold back. She handed the judge a thick stack of documents. "Your Honor, these are the plaintiff's financial records. You'll see that they have not only been reckless with their spending, but they have also repeatedly lied about their financial struggles." The judge's frown deepened as he flipped through the pages. Then I stood up. "Your Honor, I have a witness." The courtroom doors opened, and in walked Sophia's former business partner. Her scam former business partner. The room went silent. Sophia's face turned white. Daniel started shaking his head. Their whole case? Destroyed. The moment Sophia's former business partner walked in, everything shifted. The confident smirks Daniel and Sophia had walked in with? Gone. Sophia's face drained of color like she'd seen a ghost. Daniel's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Their lawyer? He started flipping through his notes like he had missed some very important detail. The woman who entered, let's call her Natalie, walked with purpose. She was dressed sharp like someone who had been waiting for years to set the record straight. She took the witness stand and adjusted the microphone, her eyes never leaving Sophia's. Michelle approached her. Ms. Natalie, could you please tell the court how you know the plaintiffs? Natalie crossed her legs and exhaled. I was once Sophia's business partner. In what was supposed to be a wellness company. She convinced me to invest. I trusted her. And she ran with the money. Gasps rippled through the small courtroom. Sophia shot up from her seat. That's a lie. The judge slammed his gavel down. Sit down, Miss Sophia. Sophia sat, but she was shaking. Daniel whispered something to her, but she didn't respond. Michelle continued, calm as ever. Ms. Natalie, could you clarify what you mean by ran with the money? Natalie nodded. We started a wellness brand. We were supposed to use our funds to set up a studio and produce products. Instead, Sophia used the money for personal expenses, vacations, shopping, luxury furniture. Then, when the business failed, she disappeared. I was left with nothing. Thousands of dollars in debt. Sophia clenched her fists. That's not true. She's making this up. Michelle turned back to Natalie. Do you have proof? Natalie smiled and reached into her bag. And then she pulled out printed bank statements, emails, and text messages. The courtroom erupted into murmurs. Michelle walked over and handed them to the judge. Your Honor, these documents clearly show that Sophia has a pattern of financial fraud. This is not the first time she has tried to manipulate someone into funding her lifestyle. The plaintiffs claim that my client had a moral obligation to support them. I argue that, if anything, my client was protecting himself from becoming their next victim. The judge flipped through the papers. His eyebrows shot up. Sophia covered her face with her hands. Daniel, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly stood up. This is an attack on my wife. You had no right to bring her past into this. The judge gave him a cold look. Sit down. He did. But at that moment I saw something shift. Daniel wasn't looking at Sophia with concern anymore. He was looking at her like she had just stabbed him in the back. As the trial continued, Michelle hammered them with more evidence. She brought up their bank records, the ridiculous spending habits, the loans they took out for their business that were actually spent on vacations. She showed the false claims they made in the lawsuit, like the supposed verbal agreement I had made to give them money. She even had phone records proving that after I said no, they had called a lawyer within 2 days to start drafting this nonsense lawsuit. It was a train wreck. The judge looked more annoyed by the minute. Sophia was shaking. But Daniel? Daniel was fuming. And then, in a moment that I will never forget, he turned on his own wife. You lied to me? He suddenly barked, standing up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. Sophia flinched. Daniel, you told me Natalie was lying. You swore to me she was crazy. You made me go along with this lawsuit when you knew you were the problem. Everyone in the courtroom stared as Daniel lost it. Sophia grabbed his arm. Honey, please, he yanked away. Oh, don't honey me. We're in court right now because of you. Their lawyer buried his face in his hands. Michelle smirked. And I just sat back and watched their entire case implode in real time. Now, here's where things took another twist. Sophia, seeing that her own husband was turning against her, did something unbelievable. She tried to throw him under the bus. Your Honor, if anyone was irresponsible with money, it was Daniel. I didn't even want to sue. He forced me to. He told me we had to take OP to court because it was our only chance to save the business. I was just going along with what he wanted. Daniel's mouth fell open. What? Now it was his turn to panic. You lying. You were the one who told me OP owed us. You convinced me. You spent all the money. Sophia turned on the waterworks. Your Honor, I was manipulated. Daniel was emotionally abusive. He pressured me into this. The courtroom was dead silent. Even I was stunned. I expected desperation, but I didn't expect her to flip on Daniel this fast. The judge sighed, rubbing his temples like he was getting a migraine. I've seen enough for today, he finally said. We will reconvene tomorrow. Court adjourned. As soon as we left the courtroom, Michelle let out a laugh. Well, that was a disaster for them. I nodded, still processing everything. Sophia and Daniel were standing near the exit, whisper yelling at each other. Daniel looked like he wanted to strangle her. I heard snippets. How could you say that about me? You were throwing me under the bus first? We're screwed, Sophia. This is your fault. And then, Sophia stormed out. Daniel hesitated. He ran a hand down his face, sighed, and followed her. I turned to Michelle. What happens next? She shrugged, smiling. We watched them destroy each other. The next morning, I arrived at the courthouse early. Michelle was already there, sipping coffee like this was just another day at work. How are you feeling? She asked, glancing up from her phone. Curious, I admitted. I want to see how much worse this can get for them. Oh, I think we'll get a show, she said with a smirk. And she was right, because Daniel showed up alone. No Sophia, no lawyer, just him, looking tired as hell, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept. He walked in, avoiding eye contact with me, and sat down at the defendant's table. A few minutes passed. Still no Sophia. The judge entered. Are both plaintiffs present? He asked, glancing around. Their lawyer stood, looking flustered. Your Honor, it appears that Ms. Sophia has not arrived. The judge frowned. Did she indicate she would be late? The lawyer cleared his throat. Not exactly, Your Honor. I was informed this morning that she has withdrawn from the case. A ripple of shock went through the courtroom. I leaned toward Michelle. What? She grinned. She bailed. Daniel's face turned bright red. His hands clenched into fists. The judge sighed heavily. So Ms. Sophia is no longer pursuing this lawsuit? That is correct, Your Honor. Very well. We will proceed with Mr. Daniel's case alone. At that, Daniel shot up from his chair. Wait, no. That's not fair. We filed this together. She can't just leave me like this. The judge gave him a look. Mr. Daniel, your wife has made her choice. Now sit down or I'll hold you in contempt of court. Daniel sat. But I could see it in his face. He had no plan. The case resumed, but now Daniel was alone. Michelle didn't hold back. She tore through his finances, his lies, his spending habits. He tried to deny it at first, but every time he opened his mouth, Michelle shut him down with cold, hard evidence. By the time we hit the 1-hour mark, Daniel looked like he wanted to disappear. Then something really unexpected happened. The courtroom doors opened. Annan walked. Sophia. But she wasn't alone. She had a different lawyer. I swear, if you had blinked, you would have missed the way Daniel's face completely collapsed. The judge looked up, already annoyed. Miss Sophia, care to explain why you're arriving late after withdrawing from the case? Her new lawyer, a short, confident-looking woman in a navy suit, stood up. Your Honor, my client is no longer a plaintiff in this case. However, she has chosen to come forward today as a witness against Mr. Daniel. The room exploded in murmurs. Even Michelle looked impressed. I just sat back and enjoyed the show. Sophia took the stand. Daniel tried to object, but his lawyer looked like he was about 5 seconds away from quitting. Michelle raised an eyebrow. Miss Sophia, can you explain why you are now testifying against your husband? Sophia sighed dramatically as if she was the victim in all this. I just want to tell the truth. I was manipulated. Daniel convinced me we should sue Opie. I didn't want to do it, but he kept saying it was the only way. Daniel slammed his fist on the table. You were lying. The judge pounded the gavel. Mr. Daniel, if you speak out of turn again, I will remove you. Daniel was seething. Sophia continued. Not only that, but Daniel was the one who spent most of our money. I tried to be responsible, but he was reckless. He made me put everything in my name so his credit wouldn't be affected. He convinced me to lie on loan applications. He even tried to take out another loan after we filed this lawsuit using Opie's name. At that, I actually blinked. What? Michelle leaned forward. Miss Sophia, are you saying Mr. Daniel attempted identity fraud? Sophia nodded. Yes. I have proof. Her lawyer handed over documents. I looked at Michelle. Did you know about this? She grinned. No. But this is fantastic. The judge skimmed through the documents. Then he looked at Daniel like he was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. Mr. Daniel, do you have an explanation for this? Daniel was panicking now. It wasn't me. Sophia's setting me up. This is a setup. The judge ignored him. Then he turned to Michelle. I think we've seen enough. Would the defense like to make a motion? Michelle stood. Yes, Your Honor. Given the overwhelming evidence against the plaintiff, we move to have this case dismissed with prejudice. The judge nodded. Motion granted. Case closed. Now, I expected Daniel to throw a fit. I expected him to storm out, maybe yell, maybe make some empty threats. What I didn't expect was for law enforcement to enter the courtroom. 2 officers walked up to Daniel's table. Mr. Daniel, you need to come with us. Daniel's eyes widened. What? One of the officers held up a warrant. You are being taken into custody for attempted identity fraud and falsifying loan documents. You have the right to remain silent, Daniel exploded. This is her fault. This is all a lie. But it didn't matter. Because they cuffed him. Right there. Sophia just sat stone-faced. Daniel screamed all the way out of the courtroom. And I? I sat back, feeling incredible. Michelle patted my shoulder. Now that was satisfying. I nodded. Oh, absolutely. But then, as we got up to leave, Sophia walked over. She gave me a small smile. I hope this means we can put everything behind us. I stared at her. Then I laughed. Sophia, I don't know what world you're living in, but I promise you, this isn't over. Sophia stood in front of me, smiling like we were old friends. I hope this means we can put everything behind us. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the sheer audacity was unbelievable. Sophia, I don't know what world you're living in, but I promise you, this isn't over. Her smile faltered for just a second. Michelle crossed her arms. My client has nothing to say to you. Sophia tilted her head, the fake sweetness vanishing. You don't know everything, you know? Daniel wasn't the only one with secrets. That caught my attention. What are you talking about? I asked. She glanced around. Not here. Meet me at the cafe across the street in an hour. Alone. Then she walked away, leaving me standing there, fuming. Michelle turned to me. Are you actually considering going? I exhaled slowly. I have to. If she has something on me, I need to know what it is. Michelle sighed but nodded. Fine. But I'll be nearby. The cafe was half empty when I walked in. Sophia was already there, sitting by the window, a cup of coffee in front of her. She looked tired, like the weight of everything had finally hit her. I sat down. Talk. She stirred her coffee, eyes downcast. Daniel's been cheating on me. I blinked. What? She let out a bitter laugh. I found out a few days ago. While we were busy trying to scam you, he was screwing someone else. Someone younger. Someone dumber. He was planning to leave me as soon as we got the money. I stared at her. I had hated Sophia for years. But in that moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She looked up, her expression unreadable. Because you were right about everything. And because I need your help. I laughed again, shaking my head. You have got to be kidding me. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Daniel has hidden money. Off the books income accounts in different names. If the police knew about this, his legal problems would get a whole lot worse. That got my attention. And you have proof? She nodded. And what do you want in return? Sophia hesitated, then said, I want you to drop any plans to sue me. I know I deserve it. I know I was awful. But I have nothing left. If you let me walk away, I'll give you everything you need to make sure Daniel never gets out of this. I leaned back in my chair, staring at her. This was the woman who had tried to ruin me. The woman who had stood by while her husband dragged me into a lawsuit over my own money. The woman who had only turned on Daniel when it suited her. But now she was just another person Daniel had used and discarded. I let the silence stretch before I finally said, give me the files. Then I'll decide. Michelle and I spent the next 2 days going through the files. And they were damning. Daniel had been funneling money into fake business accounts for years. He had been laundering cash through shell companies. He had even stolen from his own mother, moving money out of her retirement fund into his personal accounts. And the cherry on top. He had been committing loan fraud for years, using fake information to get money he had never planned to pay back. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about sending Daniel away for a long, long time. We turned everything over to the authorities. 2 weeks later, the FBI got involved. A full-blown federal investigation was launched. And Daniel? He lost his mind. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, it was Daniel. You ruined my life. His voice was shaking with rage. No, Daniel, I said calmly. You ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone saw it. He was breathing heavily on the other end. You think this is over? You think you won? I sighed. Daniel, let me explain something to you. Right now, you're looking at federal charges. The kind that don't just go away. The kind that put you in prison for years. Silence. Then, in a much lower voice, he said, what did Sophia tell you? I smirked. Everything. Daniel lost it. He started screaming, cursing, calling me every name in the book. I didn't say a month later, Daniel was formally charged. Fraud. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Bank fraud. The list went on. He tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. Sophia? She disappeared. She took whatever money she had left and ran. And me? I went back to living my life. The lawsuit, the drama, the chaos, it was finally over. But I learned something important. There are people in this world who will never take responsibility. People who will destroy everything around them just to avoid admitting they were wrong. And the best thing you can do is let them destroy themselves. I still have my savings. My peace. My sanity. Daniel has prison. Sophia has regret. And that, I think, is the best revenge of all.